We have a very dynamic and accomplished speaker tonight. It's Admiral Joseph W. Pruher. He started his 35-year distinguished Navy career after graduating from the Naval Academy in 1964. And he was a brigade commander. No, he wasn't? He graduated at the bottom of the...
He lived vicariously through his son.
Among his many achievements, he was served as Commandant of the Midshipmen of the Naval Academy, commanded Carrier Group 1, the 6th Fleet Med, Naval Strike Forces, also served as Vice Chief of Naval Operations and Commander-in-Chief for the Pacific, and after retiring from the Navy, he served as our nation's ambassador to the People's Republic of China from November of '99 to May of 2011. Please join me in welcoming Admiral Joseph W.
Thank you so much, Larry, for that introduction. It's really nice. There are a lot of stories. It's so great to be here tonight with all of you all, with an abundance of good friends. I was riding down the elevator this morning in my gym gear with a guy that looked a little tired, and I said, "Well, how's it going?" He said, "I'm having a great time here, except the days are really long." And he said, "Especially today." He said, "We've got a long time and people are going to cocktail parties and tribute ceremonies and stuff like that. Think of that poor bastard that has to speak after him." Well, there's some other things that are just about like that that have gotten fed to me tonight, and the latest one is I was reminded that the basketball starts at 8 o'clock. So I've got all those things in mind as I proceed here. But it's a time for some real recognition of old friends, and as we go around this unique museum, and from this vantage point, the venue is just absolutely fabulous to look at you in the airplanes as well. But I think the tributes have been given to the committee that put this together. I was going to go through that, but I think that Larry has covered that pretty well with Voter and Nancy Fetterman and Mark Miller and Kerry Shanigan and Buzzard. They've done a super job for us. I mean, I can't imagine a something like this doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of hard work, and they've done it with the typical planning that's been mentioned by Dave Buss earlier today about the bombs on target, and that's what we've had with the planning for this thing. Also, I'd like to thank Charlie Bolden with an absolutely distinguished career, and Dave Buss for their taking the time and the presence to be here to lend their character and their esteem to this event, and for all of us, it's really a wonderful piece of that. A little bit of a serious note, Clyde talked about the POWs. The week before last, we lost a major POW, an A6 pilot, Jerry Denton. And he lived a life of courage and dignity to which most of us could only aspire. A tremendous American, a man of great faith, became a senator. For those of you who have not heard of or read the book Defiant by Alvin Townley, that talks about the Alcatraz 11, Jerry Denton and Jim Stockdale were very close in that. Bob Shoemaker, Jim Mulligan, the Sam Johnson from Texas. It's a tremendous story of the Alcatraz 11 and what that group of people went through on our behalf as POWs, and those of us that flew there and knew them as leaders just have a tremendous obligation to them. Jerry was cared for, and he had two wonderful wives. His first wife died, and then Deke Bordone, one of our A6 guys who died about 2 or 3 years ago, his wife Marybelle married Jerry Denton and has been in care for him in Williamsburg since then. And there's a memorial mass in Virginia Beach on Tuesday for Jerry. It'll be well attended. If any of you can come there, you probably ought to bring a sandwich and come 3 hours early, because it'll be a big deal. And but we miss him, and we miss what he meant to us. Now, I'd like to lighten up just a little bit from that, and this is to tie back into Mike Vogt a little some for being the leader, as he calls himself, the lead sled dog of this. And though most of you know that Mike's dad was in VA 75, he was killed in the Vietnam War when he was a small child. And Mike and I served in VA 34 before they bust his time in VA 34. And one of the memorable times I had was from another A6 guy, Bill Westerman, who was the skipper of VA 34, and he was an early VA 75 person as well. And one of the funniest things I remember about Westy when he was skipper, and Voter and I were sitting there in the ready room. This was before an operational readiness inspection, a big deal for a squadron. And Westy, if anything, was very competitive. And he was also very good at a lot of things. But he gave an ethics lecture, which I've tried to emulate over the years a little bit. But he tried to distinguish the very fine difference between cheating and gamesmanship. And then he followed that up with defining the difference between gun decking and bringing your records up to date. That's something all of you all can take to the future. Now, in preparing for these remarks tonight, I had a little bit of a dilemma, because at first I thought, well, just tell a few stories about A6 stuff and drop a few names, talk about some people. And as I got into that, well, there are about 250 names of people that had been my leaders through life, and leaders through life that were both older and younger than I was, and deeds that they had done. And then I wasn't quite sure I could get through that, and I'm sure you all couldn't get through it. So I've tried to truncate that, and I've tried to cut this down. I'm just going to talk about two names. There are a lot of legends. A lot of them are here in this room. There are people who've taught me lessons that are beyond compare. But I'm going to talk about two names tonight. One of them, very briefly, is Charlie Carr, legendary Marine engineer. Charlie and his wife have made more of an effort than some of us to get here today. And he's been a force in the Marine Corps, a force in the A6 community, and just a plain force as a human being for a long time. Charlie, my hat's off to you. It stays that way. Thank you. The second one I do with a little more trepidation is because he's a past skipper of mine, is Captain Jerry Zacharias. And I'm going to talk a little bit about him because we've served together more. He was skipper when I was at JO, 1st Squadron, VA 75. He followed some other skippers. And there are a lot of other people here who have some of these leadership characteristics. And there are probably some other skippers here, former skippers here, who are maybe as good, but I can guarantee you they're none better than Jerry Zacharias was at CA. He came to our squadron with sort of a quiet force about him, very intellectual. He was a guy that could probably run the squadron on the back of an envelope without many other people to help him, but he did not do that. He let everybody do their jobs. He gave people responsibility. He gave them authority. He supported them when they made mistakes trying to do the right thing, which is an increasingly rare commodity in our service world these days. He was a marvelous pilot, no braggadocio at all. We were there, we went to Vietnam. He led a squadron of young men that time, none of whom had ever been in combat before. And he led us to Yankee Station on the Kitty Hawk in Air Wing 11. And we went over there, and we were on the line for 62 days to start off with. And it was during the time of the Pueblo crisis. The Ranger had gone north to Korea, so we had the sack. And we flew a lot of nighttime, and we got warmed up pretty fast. We lost 2 crews, and as fate seems to always have it, some of the guys in the crews we lost were some of the best people in the squadron. They're just wonderful people. But through that, Jerry led us extremely well. At the end of this line period, he and his BN, Mike Hall, who's here also, cross-decked the Enterprise when they came because there wasn't another carrier out there and we were going into QB. And so they cross-decked and flew off the Enterprise, flew a strike into Hanoi for which Jerry and Mike Hall won the Navy Cross. And then they came on into QB. And Jerry Zacharias, something that those of us who are JOs at heart will appreciate, took the SDO for a week. And so the rest of us all went and did whatever we do. But anyway, the skipper, one of the things, by the way, was to come home from the club on the fire engine from the base. But the skipper took the SDO job for a week. Well, he'd been going as hard or harder than the rest of us, and took it for a week and let us go, let off some steam, which is something you just don't see very often. He's not only done that, but he's done things further on in life and been a marvelous example to all of us. And I think you won't find anybody who was in VA 75 at that time that is not bound and committed to Jerry Zacharias. There's one other thing about him, is just consummate good judgment. He married her. Rita Zacharias was a strong, smart, wonderful woman of great character who taught a lot of wives about taking care of business and doing things. It was a different time than it is now. But that combination of people is what the Navy needs, what so many of us have enjoyed. And I just wanted to use Jerry as an example and Rita as an example of what has made our community great. My hat's off to you, Skipper. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Is anybody else still hungry? Okay.
Happy hats.
Yeah. You think it was the bad boy? keeping in mind my friend on the elevator this morning, I want to truncate a talk here just for a moment that I sort of feel obliged to take about the U.S. and China. There's a lot you read about it. I want to make a point. They're working hard. They've got huge challenges. We're working hard. We've got a lot of challenges. You can make an analog between a squadron in China and the U.S. and a nation, is that for a squadron, you got to have up jets to do anything. You can't achieve your mission unless you've got airplanes to fly. In a country, you can't have a strong military. You can't do things unless you've got a good economy. But those things alone are not sufficient to be great. You've got to do things with the economy. You've got to do things with those airplanes to make it work. The Chinese are working very hard. Our governments are at loggerheads. The PLA is hard to figure out, but I want to tell you, for those of you that haven't had a chance to go there's some absolutely wonderful people in China that would be fine being here with us tonight. We would like them, they would like us. I've got a lot of friends there that they're Chinese patriots. They want China to be good. We want the United States to be good. They understand that, they respect that, and they sometimes wonder what the hell we're doing right now. But they give voice to that. But the only point that I make is, as you look at that and you look at what you read about it, think about some really fine people there. The majority of them are working hard, trying to do stuff. There are some policies that are anathema to us, and we have some that are anathema to them. If you get a chance to go make friends with them. They're irreverent, got a good sense of humor. They're loyal. They're good people. So don't be down on the Chinese people. I'm going to close now because I'm getting pretty hungry. But there's no pepperoni on it. But today, Dave Buss talked a lot about the DNA flowing, the DNA of this crowd, of the Intruder community, to the other communities, and that's very important. I was going to go on that topic, but Dave covered so well today that I thought I was going to skip that, and I was going to talk a little bit about a Native Marine thing. And Charlie talked about getting something from the sergeant, getting some advice from him about going back inside and working with maintenance control. I want to tell you one of my favorite stories. It's a leadership story. And I flew a Brand X airplane that had a wing that went back and forth down to Cherry Point. And the cold, I had an air wing at that time. Cold fall day, landed at Cherry Point. We were debriefing an exercise, had carry-out for the We landed, we went in and we debriefed and got through all that stuff, got ready to leave, go fly back up to Louisiana, and went out, kicking the tires on the airplane, and the bead on one of the nose wheels come loose on landing, so we got a flat nose cut. So the same tire that fits on the A60 that they had there, they got the tires they were working on. So a couple of Marines, an E5 and E4 were out working on trying to change that tire. The sun's starting to go down, it's getting chilly. A couple of Marine generals are out there. We're talking, we're trying to get out of Dodge. And the guys are working as hard as they can. They brought a couple of start carts over there, the lights are shining on the nose gear. And so I, my Tennessee way, and I walked over to her and said, "Oh, Sergeant, is there anything I can do to help?" The guy looks up at me and said, "Sir, if you just stand out of my light." So that's part of the Native Marine team. And that's something I've always tried to remember when you're trying to let people do their jobs and stand out of their light. So I wish all of you all well. Suzanne and I love to be here with you. We've had a great time this time with you. Larry, we thank you. We thank everybody that's made this work well. God bless all of you.
There's just not enough of Joe Pruher to go around for all of us, unfortunately, and we all imagine that we will one day have endless time to talk with you with your wisdom and your humor and your caring for people. So we've got... We have a small plaque for the Ambassador, Admiral, Super K, Skipper, Department Head, Frank. So again, I would like to thank everybody for being here, your commitment, your decision to make this an event in your life enriches it for all of us. God bless you. God bless you.